Hello, welcome. We are live. My name is Lee Matthew Jackson, and today I want to share with you how I plan my content, and we're gonna do this live together. Also, I have absolutely no idea what subject I am going to go for. So I'm pretty nervous right now. And what I want to do is I want to talk you through my process for coming up with the ideas and how I plan it all. Then what we're going to do is just come up with some freaking idea and write out the synopsis, and that should become an episode in the very near future, be it a live stream that I do in the upcoming future, or be it a podcast or a blog. So if you are here and you can hear me, can I get a thumbs up? I've been again playing with the tech, so I really want to know that everything is working down here. I have a Q502 USB sound desk, and I keep trying to change things, and then I get a bit nervous that people can't hear. But like I said, for those who are joining, we are going to plan some content, and I have no idea what the subject is. First of all, let me talk you through my kind of stepped process. Then let's do it. All right, so first thing I will do is find some inspiration. I will take a look through. Hey, Matt, good to see you. It sounds like we've got some sound, some freaky idea. Hey, right. All right, so first thing I'll do is I find some inspiration. And how I find the inspiration is either from emails, from conversations, from meetings, from the internet, from comments on social media, whatever that be. But there might be some inspiration of some particular topic that comes up that kind of resonates, that I believe my audience would be interested in. That's the kind of very important thing. So we'll do that in a minute. Next, I will highlight some of the problems. There might only be one, or there may be a few problems from whatever that topic, that inspiration is. I don't know. Maybe somebody can't get a client to pay. I've seen that actually last week. So I'd be like, well, that's a pretty big problem, and I'm pretty sure that my audience would want to know, how do you get money out of a client when they're not paying? So there's a great example, and I could do something with that. What I would then do is I would think of my own experiences. So what are my experiences? Let's use the client won't pay for now. Maybe we'll come back to that. But what are my experiences with clients that haven't paid? Right, well, there are a few things. First of all, I will pick up the phone because sometimes they've just missed the email. Or secondly, I might send them a warning saying, all right, you're quite late now. We're going to have to charge you extra money or whatever. Well, yeah, charge you interest as per your terms or whatever. We've even done I think there was a special letter. I can't remember what that was called. No, I can't remember the name of that. But anyway, so we have a process, or not a process, we've had experiences of dragging money out of clients who have not been willing to pay for whatever reason. So I can think of my own experiences, and from that I will list out those sorts of solutions. I'll list out, giving them a call. There's nothing better than having a conversation with them. We'll list out the different emails that we might have sent, maybe even grab a few of the templates that we've sent out, and list that out, and then structure it as some sort of bulleted list. Then what we would do is go for it. Structure it, then go for it. Go for it meaning I will have an intro paragraph, I will have the listed solutions, and then I will show up either on a live stream, or I'll do a podcast recording, or a presentation, speech, whatever that would look like, and go for it based on my experiences. The important thing is I find some inspiration from out there, email, Facebook, etc. I highlight the specific problem I think I want to focus on that I think is right for my ideal audience. I will then look at my own experiences of how I solved that problem, list out those solutions, and create that structure. And that gives me everything I could possibly need to go ahead and do a podcast episode. So let's go ahead and add my add to stream. Okay, so we've got Microsoft Word here. I have got absolutely no idea what subject we're going to do. It sounds like audio is peaking a little bit. Thank you very much. I am going to turn down the gain a little bit. So Matt, let me know if I am. Let me know if it's still peaking. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and try and find some of that inspiration. Now, I'm not going to show you my inbox, but what we can do, if I go onto my other screen, is we can load up a, let's have a look. What can I show you for inspiration? that's not private and personal. You can tell I didn't think this far ahead, can't you? Okay, let's scroll that across. So you can see here we're in the Agency Trailblazer Facebook group, and I'm just scrolling through what's going on, and there was a particular message here from Candy about Gmail and email management. So I think that might be a particular subject we could cover. There is an ongoing problem for web developers and web designers where they are seen as almost the IT department of a company. So people think that the web developer is going to do their emails, they're going to manage the website hosting, they're going to manage their computers and everything. And before you know it, you can be overwhelmed with extra services that you're potentially not even charging for because, thanks Matt, because the client has placed all of those expectations on you. So from that post, do I focus in on the email or do I focus on the expectations? What are my experiences of it? I can think of a few times that I've had clients who have been on old email servers and their last provider did their website and their email, and when they want to move to me, they expect me to take over their email. They also expect me to help them with their computers and purchase software for them, etc. And I've had that a couple of times. It's not a massive problem. What is a massive problem, though, is all of that expectation setting. So perhaps I could look at how could I make what I do and what I offer clearer to clients, or how could I set client expectations, or how could I deal with client misunderstandings. So you can see from one post alone, there is a whole load of content that you could pull out. Why don't we take a look at Twitter as well? So let's go into Twitter and let's just have a search for Agency Life. Agency Life. Let's see what posts we've got here. I don't know if it's going to be... That's a good one. Look, agency trigger warning, agency pitching process, brief, panic, pitch, cry. So from that, again, I can think of all sorts of different experiences I've had in pitching and where I would avoid doing a pitch altogether. And even from that, you could just say, what is my pitching process? We could say what our pitching process is. I mean, we don't actually pitch, but we could explain what we used to do, and then we could explain what we do now. Matt's asking a question here. Which content format are you creating first, and how are you repurposing it? Wink. Which content format are you creating first, and how? This is me planning some content, and it will be reusable for everything, mate. So there's another idea here just from social media, and I can think of my clients or my potential audience have often got problems with people. Excuse me, I was just having a look. Have got problems with the pitching process or not being able to do that. I say we go with, let's see if there's anything else. Any memes are often where people are making jokes, usually are very helpful as well. Look at this. Very good podcast. I highly recommend you go and check out Nurture Flow podcast. Episode 5's out, I think. That's an old post there. Let's like that one. Matt is the host. Oh, look, that was me, Agency Life. Oh, is that me? That's me live now. Inception. That's amazing, with a whole 0 viewers on Twitter. That's phenomenal. I think we're going to go with managing client expectations. So, from the thing that Candy shared, she was asking for help for someone to help with the email situation. So she's very clear on what she focuses on, and she wants someone to assist with the email side of things, which is awesome. From that, though, it reminded me of stories of people in my own business who have expected an awful lot of extra services. So managing expectations. So maybe it would be how to manage... client expectations. And I have here my title. This is the title that is going to become the podcast title or the live stream title could even be a blog, or it could be all of the above. I use the exact same process. What I've done is I've had a look around, I've gotten some inspiration, maybe it was from an email, I've seen someone write about something, and then from that I've seen a few problems in there, and I've pulled out from that a particular subject that I think my audience would be interested in, how to manage client expectations. Now what I can do is create a bit of an intro paragraph that highlights what the problem is. So let's write something, and hopefully you can still hear me as I type. But let's say, so often our clients expect the world from us. Because we can build websites, they think we can also solve all their IT issues. In the past, I've become overwhelmed with client questions and support, distracting me from our core services and offerings. So that's kind of a bit of an example, and I can refine that later on, but this is just a first sort of blurb that I might do as the introductory paragraph. Next, what I want to do now is kind of think of what the solution is, and I just bullet it out as what sort of solution I have. So the first thing I would do in any contract with a client is list out the specific services I will be offering. So it's very important in the quote that I'll be listing out the very specific services that I will be offering. And during the discovery phase, I'll be asking wider questions about what else they may need help with. So during discovery, investigate investigate their wider needs. So spell that right. Because during that, I can ask them, what are you doing with your email? Or what are you doing with your IT infrastructure? Or what are you doing with your hosting, etc.? These are all important questions that I can be asking right up at the very beginning to say, great, okay, so do you have someone who can look after that? Do you have someone who can look after that? If not, I can make those introductions. But what's really important is I've gone in initially with a quote listing out the specific services that I'll be offering. I've gone into the discovery and I've asked pertinent questions to make sure they're not making assumptions. And I'm then ensuring that I can either connect them with people who can support them in those different aspects, or making sure they've got someone who's going to cover them with them. Email is obviously one of those big ones. That way, the client now understands that Lee and his business offer these services, is aware of the wider needs of the business, and is able to make recommendations for different people and different channels that the client can go down. This means that it's now less and less likely that the client is going to assume that I am the central port of call for all IT issues and all IT needs. And they also understand that they've spent money with me for something that is very, very specific. Another thing that I might do with clients, if they want me to do something that is beyond the scope, which I can still do, I might use the change control method. At this point, I'll say, oh, I understand you want us to, I don't know, what's a good example? Let's just go with email again. Or even, yeah, let's go with email. I understand you want us to port your email across from your old server to Gmail. That is not actually a core service of ours. It's not something that we offer. We can do it for you. It could be quite expensive, and it would be classed as a change control because this is outside of the scope of the list of services that we have provided you, and it's out of scope from the discovery that we did. That discovery document that we've given you does not highlight that we're going to look after your email. We've explained in the past that you need to find your email provider and find someone to look after you. If you want us to do it, we're probably going to be ridiculously expensive and is classed as a change control. This is for the people who don't want to just say flat out no. We would say normally flat out no, but you can at this point then say, it's going to cost you a fortune for you to do that, and then you can outsource it and make some money on it as well if they really, really want you to do that. In my experience, though, when you say the word change control and put a rather big price tag against it, they usually turn away. All right, so far, what we've done is we've seen a post online. It's reminded us of experiences that we've had. It's reminded me specifically of how a client has far more expectations on me and my business than the original brief would give. I've had those experiences of being interrupted and being pulled in and asked for help on X, Y, and Z. At this point, I then list out the ways that I stop that from happening. Another way that I stop this from happening is that I'll encourage client communication through a specific help desk system. So for certain clients, I would prefer them to go through a help desk. And the help desk would have very specific drop downs as to what the request is. I know we all find it frustrating when we go into hosting support lines and like you're clicking through trying to say what the issue is so that you can get through to the right area of support, and you just don't see the thing that you're looking for on there. It's kind of useful though when you're in our business and you have a client who's coming to you for support. If there is a drop-down selection of the sorts of things that they could submit for help on, it helps to set the expectation of the client as to what it is that you can do for them. So, and I mean, Roby's done this. Can you clear the paper jam in my printer? So seriously, when they go to that form and clearing paper jams is not on the list, it's far easier for you to say, I'm sorry, we don't provide that service. But it also helps stop people from going down that line of asking you for stuff that is not relevant to your business. Now, I know this doesn't look a lot, but right now let's just put the help, let's just put contact, pre-filled contact form. Okay, so now what we have is we've got from our inspiration, we've got our title, we have an opening paragraph, and we have a list of potential solutions. With each one of these potential solutions, there is a story. So we will share my story of, share my process for quoting. Share the section of the meeting where I ask about wider subjects, wider company requirements. Share my change control method. Share about the help desk form. The help desk form for us is actually a cool little Airtable. I love Airtable. It does everything. So there we go. We've now got 4 points, and I've got these notes which will not show up to the client necessarily. Will not show up on my notes on the actual website, but these are just little crib sheets or little crib notes, for me, so I know what I'm going to talk about. Now, during this live stream, what's happened is I've been telling you as we've gone through this, the content. So I shared how we list out our specific services in the quote and our experiences of that. I've essentially done this entire episode interspersed with telling you how I do this entire episode. The next thing I would do is I would actually just open up Audacity and I would go ahead and start to record this sort of podcast. So I think it's worth just doing a little pretend practice run with Audacity, and I don't know if this is going to work or not, but let's go. You can all enjoy. Let me know if the sound goes weird. Let me just turn the volume down because we don't want that too high. Testing 1, 2, 3. All right. Welcome to the Agency Trailblazer podcast. This is your host, Lee, and on today's show, let's talk about managing those client expectations. Let's set the scene. You have got a brand spanking new client. You're really excited. You're jumping into a phenomenal project with them, and then things start to go wrong. First of all, you've built them this beautiful website, you've worked with them, and they start to email you. And first, it's okay. It's just a little question about email or a little question about their computer. But before long, you become the de facto IT department for your client. Just because you know how to build a website does not mean that you are, in fact, a global IT genius experienced with paper jams in printers, with email software, transferring of data, and all of the other gubbins, which is, frankly, and clearly outside of the remit of your business. So how can you manage your clients' expectations, ensuring that you offer the services that you are ultimately qualified to offer and to keep them happy, but also ensuring that you keep them off your back when it comes to all of the other crap that, frankly, you are not experienced with, is a major distraction and you should not be doing, A, at all, and B, especially not for free. So if you have had this experience, I would recommend you stay tuned to this episode. You see, the first thing we do as a business is make sure we set those expectations really early on. And we would meet with the client and start to understand what it is that they require. For us, we predominantly build websites and we integrate into third-party platforms through APIs. So we can ensure that when we are quoting, we list out all of the services that we will be providing. That means on our quote, we will provide the output that the client can expect, but it also means we will list out the actual services that we will be giving them. That means things like project management, development, design, and we would even attribute relevant staff members so people can understand the team that they are going to work with. They can see the line items on the quote. So I now understand I am going to have a 5-page website built and it will integrate into the Shopify API. I'm making this up. We've never done that. And I will be receiving some design, some development, and a project manager will be working with me on this project. I can also see who those people are. So right from the get-go, before we've even engaged with money with this client, before we've even started to do our discovery or do any code, the client already has on paper the full expectations of what it is that this business can do for them. So that would be our first step. And with that document, by establishing that right at the very beginning of the relationship, that's something that we can always fall back on when the client tries to circle round with us and say, oh, do you mind awfully transferring all of our emails across to your server as well? Or do you mind awfully doing X, Y, and Z? The next step of our process is to go through discovery. So in discovery, we will ask some wider questions. We will take the quote, and we will lay the quote out and say, okay, we're looking here at, and often it's not a quote, often it's just a general proposal with a finger in the air estimate if we need to. And we will go through that discovery with them, looking at each and every aspect of the site they want to build, the integration they need with, for example, Shopify, like we said in this case, but we'll ask wider questions about their business. For example, we know they're going to move their domain to a new server, so we're going to ask them about hosting and what are they doing about hosting? Are they expecting that from us? Do they have a hosting provider? With hosting comes email. So the next question would be, hey, where is your email currently? Is that going to be affected in any way? And we can start to ask these wider questions. I'd encourage you as well to ask questions about the IT infrastructure of the client. We will often ask, what computers do you have? Do you have Windows? Are you using Macs? What's your default browser across the company? Because that helps us ensure that we are doing all of our testing and helps us understand when there is a bug, how we can replicate that bug, because we know how the client tends to access the content or the information that we send. So all of these are really pertinent questions that you can ask. The important point of asking those is you can then set the client's expectations with regards to who will be dealing with each one of those aspects, especially when it comes to things like mass transfer of email. we would say at that point, well, I'm really sorry, we don't provide hosting, and we certainly don't provide email hosting. We can recommend Cloudways to you, and we can manage that process, and that would be a separate line item where we manage it, but you would bill it. You would pay the bill. On the flip side, for email, we don't manage that at all. We don't do transfers or integrations, but we can recommend you Joe Blogs or Jane Doe over here who can support you with that. And if you'd like us to make an introduction for them to give you a quote for that, please let us know. Otherwise, if you're moving across to Gmail or whichever, there's certain services that will help with that process. In fact, I'm pretty sure some hosting providers even offer that as a service to help people fully migrate over. But that's the purpose of having that conversation inside of the discovery meeting. We've set some of those expectations in that initial quote or proposal, whatever we've sent them as the initial, hey, do you want to do the dance? And during the discovery, we've gone deeper and continued to set those expectations. Now, sometimes no matter how good you are at setting those expectations up front, you may find clients are still coming to you for things that are frankly out of your remit, and they can expect that you will drop everything and help them for free. It might be an IT issue. It might be the paper jam that Roby was joking on the live that we are actually doing this podcast episode on. It might be a big email transfer. And at that point, I can have a conversation with the client and do one of two things. I can say, I'm really sorry, we don't offer that service, but we can help find the right person. I can recommend X, Y, and Z. Or alternatively, if you have capacity, this is something you can do, but you don't want it to affect your business and your bottom line, then I would use what's called a change control. That means you can say, yes, we can provide you this service. It is not something that we laid out in that initial offer. It is not something that we agreed to during the discovery. Therefore, this is a change control item. And whilst we can do it, it isn't our specialism. It will take us extra time. We will need all of that time covering. And we believe the cost is going to be in excess of XYZ, whatever that cost is going to be. You will find in many circumstances that at that point, the client will respect the fact that this is something that is a change control, that is costed, that will take time, that has value to them and needs to be paid for. And secondly, may find they want to go elsewhere to find it cheaper, which in most circumstances, as far as I'm concerned, is absolutely fine, because I don't really want to be transferring gigabytes and gigabytes of data across. Let's just check my comments on here. What are we getting? Oh, this is an episode within an episode. I'll have to clip that out because this really is an episode within an episode. All right, let's keep going. I'll leave a blank. Finally, when setting client expectations, we like to educate them as to how to connect with us. We don't want people picking up the phone unnecessarily unless they're paying for that sort of access. We don't want people WhatsApping us. We don't want people messaging us. We don't want people spamming individuals on email. So we are very clear about what the process is for communication. If we're working on a project, then we are working within the project management system. And within that project management system, we've already laid out all of the services, everything that they're going to get, so they fully understand it. They can see all of the related tasks and they can communicate with us in there. And if something they ask for is out of scope, then we can easily highlight that. But secondly, we would encourage clients who then need ongoing support to connect with us through a support form. We use Airtable. We've got an integration that puts that where we need it and we can deal with that. But that form forces them essentially to, or pre-qualifies them, I guess is the right word. When I make mistakes in podcasts, I leave blanks. And that form ensures their questions are pre-qualified. We list out in that form the services that we are offering. Is your question about web design, development, a bug, and so on and so forth? We've listed out the services that we offer, so our client knows that their question needs to be relevant. If they select other and then give us some random question, that's fine. We've already established in in their mind that this is something beyond the list of questions that we would normally expect. And that gives us easier recourse for when we respond saying we're awfully sorry, but we don't provide support for that particular product or service. So I would highly encourage you to find some sort of centralized method that you can receive client communication from, rather than just being blitzed with emails and telephone calls about things that are not necessarily related to either the project or the products and the services that you have to offer. What are we thinking so far, guys? This is great fun, isn't it? I didn't even think I was going to do a podcast. Right. Let's press stop for a second. I can clip that bit out. So stop, and I'm going to clip that bit out because that was just when I spoke to you guys, and then I can zoom out. What I can also do is I can go ahead and zoom into where this little issue was, because I can see I left a blank. And I can go back to that later and snip that together so that it sounds nicer and more succinct, and do where kind of do it where I finished off. Now, what I like to do with the content that I create is kind of do a reminder or a wrap up. So I'll remind you of the problem, I'll remind you of those solutions, and then I'll do some sort of outro as well. Let's just take a quick look at the comments. This is cool to watch you do it live. Smiley face. Thanks, mate. I've got to admit, I don't feel like it's flown as well because I feel under pressure and I'm looking at the camera at the same time out of habit. But I think it's going pretty well. And when I listen back, what I will do is if I mumble or do a few ums and ahs, I also like to take those out just to make myself sound really good. All right, so let's do that little bit of an outro, and then let's finish off. For people who aren't seeing the comments, we're getting all sorts of comments, like Peter saying, this is like an episode within an episode. It's like The Matrix. Matt says, it's so cool to see you do it live. And Pete says, we've come out of The Matrix now. We have a say, what? Okay, let's keep going then. So let me hit record. And remember, what I'm going to do is do that outro. I've found over the years as an agency owner that these 4 steps are highly effective at managing client expectations. Where in the past I used to let things get out of control, we found ourselves taking responsibilities for our clients' IT infrastructure. Nowadays, we are able to draw a line and make it very specific what we do, what we offer, and how we can support our clients. Back in the old days, it was immensely stressful because we felt we needed to keep pleasing our client. That is because our client had an inflated expectation of what we could do for them. When we set those expectations right at the very beginning, anything beyond those expectations are easy to push back on. It's easier for you to say we do not offer that when you've already made it flipping well clear right at the very beginning. So a reminder of those 4 steps. The first thing we will do is in any quote or in any proposal that we send out, we will be listing out what they will be getting in a rough form, but also the services that we will be offering with those, like design, development, project management, so on and so forth, UX, consultancy, whatever services you offer, make sure you list them out very specifically. Therefore, email transfer or anything beyond that is not in the list. Next, during the discovery, we would then have the wider conversation about the business, highlighting any questions that we believe are important, like, do you have an email provider? Do you have an email provider? Do you have a hosting partner? And so on and so forth, so that you can make it clear what you do and what you don't do and what the client needs to go ahead and source. Next, if a client still wants to push for something that is outside of your remit, A, you can just say flat out no, or B, you can offer that as a change control if you have the capacity, if you are able to do it, and you wouldn't mind the billing, then sure, put that out as a change control. And we found in most circumstances when we do that, because we're probably more expensive than somebody who specializes in it, the client tends to go away and finds someone else to do it, which is totally fine by us. And then finally, we manage the way that clients communicate with us. We don't have them emailing us. We don't have them going through WhatsApp and Messenger and all sorts of telephone calls. We have them going through a very specific form, which forces them to select the topic that they want to ask questions on or get more information on. And those are essentially the core services that we offer. That means when they select other and put something that is really not related to what we do, we've already established that that's outside of those services, and it's far easier for us to go back to them with a, hey, we don't do that, but we can help you find the person who will. So, folks, how do you manage your client expectations? Have you found yourself in the exact same situation? You have too many emails, too many phone calls, and you find yourself being a client pleaser rather than controlling that relationship. If you do feel like that, I would encourage you, take a look at the show notes of this episode and see if you can begin to apply those sorts of methodologies to your business practice. Setting those expectations. You can start as soon as your website. Get those services on your website. Get those services listed out in your proposal or in your quotes. Get those services nailed again during that discovery. And then during your communications, etc., having your client understand what your specialisms are, and anything out of that scope, you will need to push them in a different direction. If you've had any of these experiences, if you have any thoughts or advice, please join our community over on agencytrailblazer.com/group. It's a great place for us all to hang out together and to ask these all important questions and brainstorm together. That's agencytrailblazer.com/group. And finally, this episode was sponsored by Cloudways, my all-time favorite hosting company, who make getting an agency into the cloud ridiculously easy. You can check them out over on cloudways.com or the show notes of this episode for any offers that may be on at this particular time. Folks, if we don't see you in the community, we will see you in next week's episode. Stop recording. So I have pretty much looked on the internet, found some inspiration, written an intro paragraph, found some solutions to the problem that I've drawn out from that, and then I've gone ahead and recorded some content. So Wednesday's podcast, in theory, is now ready for me to edit. I can hand this off to Larissa. She can clip and cut and make sure that this is as smooth as possible, and then that podcast can go live. So, folks, let me know if you have any questions on this process, and I hope this has been very helpful to you. What this Matt says, wait till he does a video of him making a video and him recording a podcast about him writing an email to someone who asked a question about his video. That's phenomenal. Well, folks, I think that's pretty much it. I hope that gives you an insight into how we do things here, how we come up with the content. Let's do that final recap. We find some inspiration. So we found some from Facebook. We highlight the problem when we draw out some specific problems that we think our clients or our target audience would be interested in. We then draw on our own experiences and, you know, how have we solved that problem in the past. We list out those solutions and we marry those with some stories that we have of our own experiences. We structure those solutions and we put some sort of intro paragraph. So we've essentially got the opener and the key points of our episode. And then finally, we go for it. Let's just highlight one last thing. If we go to the Agency Trailblazer website, how I discovered my niches is not one. That's not a good one. Do you really need more leads? Let's take a look at this. Do you see? Here is the introductory paragraph. And here is the questions that I would ask myself. So it's a very similar format. Let's take another look. What's about fake it till you make it? Take a look at this one. Exact same format. I've got some inspiration. I've come up with an intro paragraph. I've got my bullet points, and then I can just add any other resources. So that's essentially how I plan and then go for it. It's always easy and always best if you can come up with content that you are confident on, that you have experience on, that you can really speak in 2. Holy moly, I've been going on for 40 minutes. Have you all been with me this long? That's amazing. Pete says, the master at work, now a recap on an episode that had a recap. But yeah, it's as simple as that, really. And it does take practice. I mean, if you were to go to episode 1 of this of the Agency Trailblazer podcast, I had a format. It was hard. I wasn't very confident. I was interviewing people. I felt like a imposter, and it was scary. Whereas nowadays, I've got years of experience behind me in presenting, but also years of experience in the agency life. So it's easy for me to pick a subject that I am confident on, that I have experience with, that I've been inspired by online, and then I can go for it. All right, folks, I think that's pretty much it. I think I've labored this one way too far. And you know what? It's Wednesday today, isn't it? I might make that episode live today for fun. All right. You never know. Folks, have a wonderful day. Take care. And if you can't be good,